We begin with electoral matters, where the Delta State Independent Electoral Commission has commenced declaration of the council elections results held yesterday across the 25 local government areas of the state. The various returning officers are taking turns to announce their various local government results.
Results in the local government elections that took place yesterday. Some of the results are filtered in, and we are going to announce the results straight away. So, at this juncture, I welcome you all. I'll invite the CEOs and the local government returning officers to do their job, because that is their statutory role.
Our correspondent Austin Azu is on standby to give us update on the local government elections. Hello, Austin. Thank you for joining us. Can you go ahead and tell us what you know about the results declaration so far?
Currently, we are at the DSEC headquarters here in Asaba. The coalition, the declaration of results room. As behind me, you can see the banner. Not quite long that some of the local government returning officers announced their various results. About 16 local government has been announced so far, and they just went on a break, and they will be back in a short while to complete the other 9 local government areas that make up the 25 local government areas here in the state. Yesterday, the election was held across the 25 local government area with some little issues from some polling units that couldn't get their voting materials. So we are yet to get the clarification on that, why some polling units couldn't get their voting materials, why they were unable to cast their vote yesterday. However, there are some reports we have gathered so far that they elected the chairmanship, the elected chairmen will be presented certificates of return today, at least from 5 p.m.
All right, Austin. Now, what can you actually tell us about those that did not get their polling materials, the polling units that didn't get their materials? Does it mean that the conduct of elections will be rescheduled, or there will be no elections at all?
We are expecting that at the end of the announcement of the remaining 9 local government areas, we believe the DSEC chairman will announce, or we addressed the media on the success of the outcome of the elections. So probably he'll be able to tell us more why some polling units couldn't get their results, couldn't get their voting materials yesterday. From what they protested, they said that the voting materials were diverted, and because of that, they couldn't get their voting materials for them to vote. So maybe, hopefully, before the end of today, we'll be able to unravel why they were unable to get their voting materials to, carry out their civic responsibilities yesterday.
Austin, please go ahead and give us a sense of, what the election, the process was like yesterday, and, the collation of the results. How is it going so far, especially, in terms of security?
Yesterday, election went peacefully, according to the reports we gathered yesterday. It was adjudged as one of the peaceful elections so far, and no security threats regarding the election that was held yesterday. And results started trickling yesterday. As soon as the elections were over, the returning officers started bringing their materials to the DSEC office, and thereafter the declaration of the result was slated for today, 12 o'clock. Exactly 12 o'clock thereabouts, the DSEC chairman and the other members of the commission came out to address the party faithful that were here, and address the media that they were set to announce the local government that were ready for the elections. And the various returning officers took turn one after the other to declare their various local government elections. Of course, you should know that this is local government elections, and unlike what we have in the national elections, where you are going to have a lot of party representatives being present and some other persons who are likely going to answer a lot of questions. However, in this situation, prior before the general election, prior before the DSEC elections, there were some political parties from some local government area that pulled out from the exercise. According to what they said, they expressed lack of confidence in this act. So, specifically, Ughelli North local government area pulled out from the race and expressed dissatisfactions about the process of recruitment of the ad hoc staff that was used by the commission.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Austin, for that update. Now, away from the Delta State elections, the Association of Local Governments of Nigeria has called for the abolition of state independent electoral commissions. This was during a press conference in the nation's capital, Abuja, where they also commended the recent Supreme Court judgment, which granted financial autonomy to local governments. Our correspondent Joshua Imarai brings us details.
These members of the Association of Local Governments of Nigeria are advocating for the dissolution of state independent electoral commissions currently responsible for conducting local government elections. Members of their board of trustees say they want the Independent National Electoral Commission to take over this responsibility to make the electoral process more transparent.
We recognize that more constitutional hurdles needs to be overcome. We urge the government to look into promptly. Scrap State Independent Electoral Commission, that is the SEC, and empower INEC to conduct uniform election for the 774 local governments across the country and mirroring the 4 years tenure of state and federal offices.
You don't just say you give a local government autonomy and still leave it in the hands of state INEC, that the House of Assembly will regulate the functions of the local government. It is a great danger to anybody who is going to be a chairman.
If the INEC is being empowered to oversee elections, the people have a moral responsibility and a duty to their communities to ensure that the right people are being voted into office so that the right thing will be done.
They also commended the ruling of the Supreme Court of Nigeria on local government financial autonomy, urging all local government chairmen to shun financial mismanagement and prioritize transparency.
Everyone should have a ward advisory council or committee that they will come up with their key needs and present to the local government chairman so that these items will be truly addressed.
The Association of Board of Trustees say that it has appointed a financial expert to monitor disbursement from the Federation Account Allocation Committee to ensure transparency during spending. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imorai.
Still on local government elections, Chairman of the Adamawa State Independent Electoral Commission, Muhammad Umar, has expressed concern over low turnout of voters at the local government elections conducted in the state on Saturday. Umar expressed the concern shortly after inspecting some polling units in Yola South and North local government areas. He, however, expressed satisfaction with the peaceful conduct of the elections.
Because of the late starting of the election, the turnout was very low. But you should bear in mind that this rainy season, some people, they don't care about the election, they prefer to go to their farms. More so in the local government election, there's this notion, people have the notion that well, even if they vote, the party in power is going to win. We try to sensitize them on this to show them that this time around, we are going to do something differently.
To political matters, former Senate President Anyim Pius Anyim has left the People's Democratic Party for the ruling All Progressives Congress. He announced his defection at Pa Oruta Ngele Township in Abakaliki during the APC local government election campaign's grand finale on Saturday. Joining him were former state and National Assembly members, former Labour Party governorship candidate Edwin Nkwegu, Senator Obinna Ugba, and thousands of supporters. They were welcomed by APC National Chairman Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje, Progressive Governors Forum Chairman Governor Hope Uzodimma, Ebonyi State Governor Francis Uforas, Minister of Works David Umahi, State Chairman Stanley Megan, and other party leaders. Let's also tell you that Nigeria's Plateau state government has declared 3 days of mourning following the tragic collapse of the St. Academy School building on Friday, which resulted in the loss of lives and several injuries. In a gesture of respect and remembrance, the government has ordered all flags within the state to be flown at half-mast from July 13th to July 15th. Governor Caleb Mutfwang, who visited the scene on Saturday, extended his heartfelt condolences to the affected families and urged citizens to adhere strictly to building codes and ethics to prevent such tragedies in the future. Emphasizing safety and compliance, Governor Mutfwang called for all developers and property owners to submit their building plans to the Just Metropolitan Development Board for verification and revalidation as mandated by Executive Order 003. In addition, Governor Mutfwang has announced the immediate closure of St. Academy School and has ordered a full investigation into the circumstances surrounding the building collapse.
Yesterday was a Black Friday for us. It was a very unfortunate incident. Like I said, it's an incident that could have been avoided with proper governance. Clearly, you can see that the building leaves a lot to be desired. Even as a layman, I could see that the building was not up to standard. Let me appreciate the people of Plateau State who rushed to the scene in their numbers. People also lent their equipment for use. This is our common humanity, that when disaster befalls any one of us, we are there for one another. We'll continue this process of engagement and comforting one another until God brings comfort to the families who lost their dear ones.
In a related development, emergency responders have blamed the use of substandard materials in the construction of a building which collapsed on Saturday in Abuja, trapping 4 residents. Though the residents were successfully rescued, the responders say the building has failed a preliminary structural integrity test. Our correspondent, Joshua Marai, was at the scene of the collapse, which occurred at the Kubwa area of Abuja, located at the Buari Area Council.
Tragedy struck in the early hours of Saturday in the Kubwa area of Buari Area Council, Abuja. A 3-story building originally constructed as a hotel, then converted into a hospital and finally used as a residential apartment, collapsed, trapping 4 people inside.
Early 6 this morning, my neighbor came to knock on the door that the building is shaking. So he said we should come outside. So when I came downstairs, I really saw the building shaking. So I went upstairs to wake my husband and my kids to come down. So immediately we just rushed down. The building collapsed. The only thing I know that is about 36 rooms, but I don't really know the actual people because some people are couples, some people are single.
At the scene of the collapse, initial responders reported that fortunately, no lives were lost.
I was one of the early people to be here with the DPO, and that was when we started looking for rescue mission on what we can do. We rescued 3 people, and they're in the general hospital here.
So far, we have been able to rescue 4 people alive. 2 people are in the hospital, others were unhurt. From the rubbles, you can see that the use of substandard materials is part of it. If you look at the rubbles very well, you see the quantity of cement and quantity of sand, the quality of iron rods, and the size.
According to authorities, the building will be sealed off while specialists conduct a structural integrity test on its remaining parts to determine its viability and ensure it's safe for occupancy. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
Let's also tell you that the Office of the Chief of Staff to the Emir of Kano, Lamido Sanusi, has confirmed that a fire incident occurred at the outer court of the palace, Kofar Kudu, on Saturday. Now we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, the news continues. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. To Judicial Matters, Justice Nnamdi Dingba of the Federal High Court Lagos has ordered former Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed to disclose the details of the agreements between the federal government and X, formerly Twitter. The judgment, considered a landmark verdict, was delivered in May 2024 following a Freedom of Information suit brought by the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP. The certified true copy of the judgment was obtained last Friday. SERAP's Deputy Director, Kolawole Oluwadare, revealed in a statement on Sunday that the order was to assess whether the agreement complies with the exercise of Nigerians' human rights online. The Nigerian Bar Association section on public interest, NBA SPIDL, has given the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, a 7-day ultimatum to seize the issuance of the Central Motor Information System certificate. This directive requires vehicle owners to register and obtain the certificate for a fee of no less than 6,000 naira. NBA SPIDL questioned the legal basis for this requirement, asserting that no law grants the Nigerian police force the authority to issue such licenses or certificates following vehicle registration at the appropriate offices. The association demands an immediate halt to the issuance and enforcement of the CMRIS certificates, and they urge the Inspector General of Police to issue a directive stopping the practice nationwide and call for the shutdown of the registration website and physical registration centers, with refunds provided to those who have already paid. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, had ordered the enforcement of the digitalized Central Motor Registry to commence by July 29, 2024. Several experts in Nigeria have called for an outright review of the adoption of genetically modified organisms and their role in the food and agricultural sector, saying there is scientific evidence of its detrimental effects to the health of humans. This was as they converged on the nation's capital, Abuja, to engage and share knowledge on raised concerns surrounding the adoption of GMOs. To discuss this and issues around the use of genetically modified organisms, we're joined by an animal scientist, Dr. Uforas. Hello, doctor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Now, the experts calling for a review mentioned scientific evidence of GMO's detrimental effects. Now, can you provide details on the specific research they're referring to or referencing and how it applies to the context of Nigerian agriculture?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. GMOs are genetically modified organisms. These are organisms that their genetic compositions have been altered. They have been altered, the genes are being altered from the natural form. And these are done using genetic engineering techniques, different biotechnology tools that are used for altering these characters. We all know that man, from inception of cultivation of plants and animals, have actually selected animals and plants that they deem fit to be the best for the next generation of crops to improve productivity. And now, with the rising world population, it is very, very impossible for the current system, using the current traditional system, the current varieties of plants that are not modified to meet the ongoing food crisis. So these food items have been modified using different biotechnological tools. But we, especially here in Nigeria, there's this conspiracy theory that has been going on and on and on, and this has not only been with GMOs. You will recall that when the 5G network came into use, there was a conspiracy theory that it was being brought into Nigeria, brought into the world to reduce world population, to
So, doctor, are you now saying that GMOs have no have no disadvantages, you know, when it comes to health, that they're very healthy?
Yes, for me and from research, there's actually no proven side effect of genetically modified food. I will refer you to the World Health Organization. I will refer you to the American Medical Association, and I will refer you also to the National Academy of Science. These are reputable organizations that are in charge of health implications of food items or any other environmental factors.
Okay.
And these associations haven't come out with any proven one. Although, like you have quietly asked, there are theories, there are all over the internet. You see statements like it causes allergy, it causes gut failure, causes antibiotic resistance, and all of that.
All right, doctor. So now, if GMO adoption, you know, in Nigeria were to be limited, what alternative strategies, you know, should be proposed, you know, in order to ensure food security and also agricultural productivity in the country?
Sorry, please, come again.
I said, if GMO adoption in Nigeria were to be limited, what other strategies, you know, should be proposed to ensure food security and agricultural productivity in the country?
Yes, if GMO is to be limited, we haven't gone to the farm as we should be. The production of crops, livestock and crops in Nigeria is basically the population of food and food production are mostly subsistence farmers. Subsistence farmers, of course. And they do this, and that is how food items are being produced to feed ourselves. You know, we need to improve these subsistence farmers need to be empowered. They need to be given more security. They need to be given more security. Going by the current situation of the food production in Nigeria, where the headers farmer crisis has really plunged us further into these food insecurity challenges. Well, things weren't as good as we wanted to be, but with the current challenge posed by farmer headers crisis, we have lesser people going to the farm. Okay. So certainly, those our good crops that we have preserved and we have been using over the time, we could fall back to them, and at the same time ensure that the farmers that are going to the farm are secured.
All right, thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you for speaking to us on this.
Thank you.
The Lagos Leadership Conference, an annual international leadership platform, brings together leaders from all segments of society to share ideas and get fresh insight from within and outside Nigeria. Earlier Friday, the 20th edition of the conference held in Victoria Island, Lagos, Nigeria. News Central's Bettina Ngweli reports.
The overall aim of the Lagos Leadership Conference, LLC, is to contribute a quota in reducing the leadership deficit in our nation. LLC says it hopes to reform and transform individuals to great minds in their professions by partnering with finest leaders, innovators, professionals, and entrepreneurs who will share ideas with participants.
The integrity has to do with consistency. Please note the words. Consistency between what a leader says and what the leader does. That integrity is an alignment between a person's values, beliefs, words, and actions, as well as the extent to which promises are kept.
Both keynote speakers at the conference, the executive chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Olukoyede Olanipekun, and Ajori Shedere Awoshika, a leading woman in business, spoke on leading with integrity from both a corporate sector perspective as well as the public sector perspective.
So I just established what I call the Directorate of Fraud Risk Assessment and Control. The whole directorate in the FCC now, we established about 3 months ago. We are going into the MDAs. We have over 700 of them. So we are going to go into their process for award of contract and procurement activities. And so we are examining that. The past 5 years, how many contracts have you awarded? What process did you follow? Where are the evidence of execution of this project? I've been advocating for Unexplained Wealth Act that would make me say, look, if I find you are a public servant, you retire on grade level 17, I know your pension and I know your gratuity. Now you are living in a house of 1.6 billion in Ikoyi. I will call you, sir. Explain how did you acquire this? Simple.
The Lagos Leadership Conference 2024 prides itself as being more than just an event. It positions itself as a movement towards a brighter, more sustainable future, an avenue for all and sundry to redefine leadership and shape the world we want to see. In Lagos, for News Central, Bettina Nwili.
Still in the west of the continent, Niger's army says it has recaptured a large number of detainees who escaped from a high-security prison near the capital, Niamey, and that 3 of the dozens of escapees had been killed. Recall that the jailbreak occurred on Thursday at the Kutukale prison that houses many jihadist insurgents which have targeted the West African nation for years. In a statement, the army said a mutiny broke out at the prison with several dozens of inmates taking advantage of the situation to escape. The army also expressed gratitude for the swing action of the security and went on to say that searches were underway to find the remaining escapees in a populated area around the Niger River. Senegals President Bassirou Diomaye Faye has expressed his willingness to address the issue of the French military presence in his country with serenity and without brutal ruptures. In an interview with Senegalese media, President Faye emphasized the importance of maintaining a calm and measured approach to the discussions. He also acknowledged the challenges facing the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, following the departure of 3 of its members.
Quand ça va se faire à telle date, parce que même les modifications qui interviennent dans les relations entre pays doivent être, de mon point de vue, discutées en toute sérénité, en toute amicalité, en toute amitié. Je ne pense pas qu'on ait besoin aujourd'hui, quel que soit le partenaire, d'avoir des ruptures brutales. Aujourd'hui, la CEDEAO est en difficulté. Je ne me fais pas d'illusions, j'y vais avec beaucoup d'humilité. Je vais faire en compagnie de mes pairs et sous la supervision de la CEDEAO ce que je crois devoir faire, à savoir.
In the east of the continent, Kenyan police say they have found more bags filled with dismembered female body parts in a grisly discovery at a rubbish dump that has horrified and angered the country. According to officials, detectives have been scouring the site in the Nairobi slum of Mukuru since the mutilated corpses of at least 6 women were found on Friday in sacks floating in a sea of garbage. The Directorate of Criminal Investigation said on Saturday that another 5 bags had been retrieved from the abandoned quarry, 3 of them containing female body parts, including severed legs and 2 torsos. Now, in a statement, the Directorate reassured the public that the inquiries will be exhaustive, will encompass a broad spectrum of topics, including but not restricted to potential cultist activity and serial killing. Meanwhile, world leaders have reacted with shock to the wounding of Donald Trump in an assassination attempt against the former U.S. president at an election rally. Presidents and prime ministers globally spoke out against political violence and expressed their support for those affected by the shooting on Saturday, which killed one bystander and left 2 other spectators critically wounded. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said she was deeply shocked by the attack. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz called the shooting despicable and said such acts of violence threaten democracy. In neighboring France, President Emmanuel Macron called the assassination, in his words, tragedy for our democracies. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the incident is not only a heinous crime, but also an attempt to assassinate American democracy.
כולנו צפינו בזעזוע אתמול לניסיון ההתנקשות הנפשע בנשיא לשעבר דונלד טראמפ, מועמד לנשיאות בארצות הברית. זה לא רק פשע נפשע, זה גם ניסיון להתנקש בדמוקרטיה האמריקנית.
In response to the recent assassination attempt on his election rival, Donald Trump, U.S. President Joe Biden has issued a strong condemnation. Trump was wounded in a shooting incident at a rally in Pennsylvania, which also reportedly resulted in the death of at least 1 bystander. Speaking to reporters during an emergency briefing in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, President Biden declared that there is no place in America for such violence. He emphasized that this incident underscores the need for national unity.
Thanks for coming, folks. I've been thoroughly briefed by all the agencies in the federal government as to the situation, based on what we know now. I have tried to get a hold of Donald. He's with his doctors. Apparently he's doing well. I plan on talking to them shortly, I hope, when I get back to the telephone. Look, there's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this. And I want to thank the Secret Service and all the agencies, including the state agencies, that have been engaged in making sure that people and we have more detail to come relative to other people maybe injured in the audience. I don't have all that detail. We'll make that available to you. I may be able to come back a little later tonight, but we'll put out a statement if I'm not able to if it's not convenient for you all. But the bottom line is that the Trump rally was a rally that he should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. Everybody must condemn it. Everybody. I'll keep you informed, and if I'm able to speak to Donald, I'll let you know that as well. But so far, it appears he's doing well, number one. Number two, that there's thoroughly investigating what happened to anyone else in the audience. We have some reports, but not final reports. And every agency in the federal government, I'm going back to my phone to speak with the federal agencies that are being put together again to give me an updated briefing. Has anything happened? They learned any more in the last couple hours. So thank you very much, and I hope I get to speak to them tonight, and I'll get back to you if I do. Okay?
Mr. President, do you think this was an assassination attempt?
For more on this, I'm joined by international correspondent Afia Hagen. Afia, what impact do you think that this assassination attempt actually has on the United States, especially politically?
Well, this assassination attempt is only going to polarize an already very polarized and heavily armed nation. And it speaks to where the United States is at the moment in this election cycle. We know that the Democrats and the Republicans are worlds apart. They don't share much in common. And actually what this assassination attempt does is fuel that fire, is fuel this kind of discourse that the Democrats had something going to do with this. Within an hour after this incident happening, there was billboards in the state of Pennsylvania saying Democrats try to assassinate Trump and pray for Donald Trump. It's only going to fuel the fire, fuel the polarization, and drive these two parties even further apart. Now, President Biden there, when he gave his remarks, called for unity, but this is going to bring anything but unity. And actually, Donald Trump made a statement himself in which he called for unity and saying that he has faith and things like that. But Donald Trump calling for unity, President Biden calling for unity is not going to unite this nation. And in fact, the polarization will be even worse than it has been before.
All right, so what about globally? What significance does this attempt have, on a global perspective? We've seen so many global leaders, world and global leaders, come out to condemn the attack. We've seen the president of France, we've seen German vice chancellor, we've actually seen even Benjamin Netanyahu, speak on this particular incident.
Well, yes, global leaders around the world have expressed their dismay and their condemnation of this attack on Donald Trump, but they've also acknowledged that it's not just an attack on Donald Trump, that it's an attack on democracy, which it is. And when you have the United States, which is supposed to be the ultimate global power, going down the road of political violence in the way that it is now, then this will affect the United States standing on the world stage and where they are on the world stage. When Donald Trump was president, they kind of slipped down on the world stage. Under President Biden, they seem to have kind of got back to that place of being this kind of global superpower. The president of the United States is coined the leader of the free world. But when you have a country where you're supposed to have the leader as the leader of the free world can be subjected to this kind of political violence, it gives question to that. Where is the United States on a global world stage? Are they the superpower that they claim to be? Look, if this was happening in an African country or an Asian country, we would be using the words failed state, but we're not, because this is the United States.
Afia, I went on social media, earlier, and I saw so many comments from people saying that this incident has actually tilted their support, to Donald Trump, that they would be supporting Donald Trump because of the incident. Now, what effect do you think that this particular incident has on voter sentiment and turnout, in the upcoming election?
I've seen a lot of those comments as well. A lot of people affirming their support for Donald Trump more now than they ever have. Look, this is going to galvanize his base. This is going to solidify his place in the minds of people who are perhaps undecided and were thinking that they would vote for him. I'm sure they will now. And Donald Trump is the world's greatest producer. He knows how to turn this around. When he's faced criminal charges, he's used that to drum up support and money for the Republican Party. You got some of his biggest donations in the weeks up to his trial, and he will absolutely turn this around for his good. And all this will do is galvanize his base and galvanize his support.
All right, so what's in it for President Biden? He did come out to, condemn the attack. He responded to it saying that, it was condemnable. So I'm asking, how does President Biden's response to the attack reflect his administration's stance on political violence and also national unity?
Well, when it comes to President Biden and his administration, they're absolutely in step in condemning this act of political violence and saying that there's no place in America for this kind of sick violence. But at the same time, they are a government that isn't doing anything about their gun laws, that isn't doing anything about the right to bear arms. And when I say that, obviously they cannot remove that from the amendment, but putting more restrictions on the type of guns that people will buy. America, like I said, very polarized and heavily armed. And so the fact that they are so heavily armed leads to this kind of violence, whether it's political violence or otherwise. And so, yes, they're right to be condemning this and they're right to be calling for unity, but at the same time, they aren't doing anything to try and stem the flow of gun crimes in the United States.
All right, well, thank you so much, Afia, for that update. Now, in the world of sports, the 2023-2024 champions of the Nigerian Women Football League, Edo Queens, have begun early preparations for the 4th edition of the preliminary stage of WAFU B playoff. Edo Queens are currently out for Benin City for a 1-month intensive training program for its first continental inter-club competition, which will run from August 10th through 23rd, 2024. 7 countries will be participating in Zone B of WAFU B playoff in Côte d'Ivoire. As a build-up to the championship, quality players from various NWFL Premiership clubs have been invited to Edo Queens by the management to help beef up the team. Britain's Alfie Hewitt won his first Wimbledon wheelchair singles to complete a career Grand Slam with a convincing win over Spain's Martin de la Puente. Hewitt fell to agonizing defeats in the last 2 Wimbledon finals, but this time looked utterly dominant in his 6-2, 6-3 win on court 1. After taking the title, he became the second male player after Japanese legend Shingo Kunieda to win both the singles and doubles of every Grand Slam. Later on Sunday, he could become the first man since Britain's Gordon Reid in 2016 to win the Wimbledon singles and doubles title in the same year. He partners Reid against Japan's Takuya Miki and Tokito Oda on court 3, with the British pair having one of the past 7 titles together. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that Plateau State government has declared 3 days of mourning for victims of school building collapse. We also told you that military authorities in Niger say its army has killed 3 of Thursday's prison break escapees and recaptured many. Finally, you heard that world leaders have condemned assassination attempt of former U.S. President Donald Trump. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen, Usman.